Welcome business leaders, welcome labor leaders, welcome community colleges, welcome community organizations, welcome workforce boards, welcome everybody who's in this room who cares about what this country is doing to invest in its people so that everybody has a chance to compete for a good, skilled job in today's economy. I'm Andy Van Kleunen. I'm the CEO of National Skills Coalition, and I want to welcome all of you to NSC's 2020 Skills Summit. It is great to have all of you here for the next few days in Washington. You're here because you all do, in different ways, important work in your local communities, helping folks get the right skills to get a good job, helping local businesses hire local folks so they can grow their businesses, bringing greater value to everybody in your local communities. It's incredibly important work, and we're always careful when we ask you to leave that work for a couple of days to come here to DC. But it's incredibly important that you're here as well, because as important as your work is, it needs to have more importance in the eyes and the minds of the folks who are making decisions here in Washington, D.C. about how we write and rewrite laws, how we think about funding priorities, how we think about a lot of the working people who do not get the attention that they deserve when we're thinking about education policy in this country. We're here to change the rules about who gets a chance to succeed in the United States. And it's based on the important work that you do in your communities, and the policies that we're trying to change is based on your expertise and the information that you're going to bring to conversations up on Capitol Hill in a couple days. National Skills Coalition does this in a very particular way. We're not a think tank, although we've got a lot of smart folks in our office here in DC, but we really know what we know about the policies based on the work that you do every day in your communities. That's the nature of this organization. And it is hard for me to believe, but here we are in 2020. This is National Skills Coalition's 20th anniversary year, which is incredible. I won't embarrass them because I'd be one of the ones if I said, who was here during the first, what we didn't even call it the Skills Summit, but I won't embarrass them. I was there. May 2001. I think we probably had about 50 or 60 folks. I would not even say it was in a ballroom. It was in some windowless room somewhere in a hotel in downtown DC. Folks like yourselves that came to Washington to say, hey, if policymakers, Republicans and Democrats, if they just listened to us, they would work more effectively together. They would rewrite some of these laws to make it easier for us to do what we do, and that we think we can bring people from around the country to talk to them about that. So imagine that here we are today in a room with over 550 people from 42 states. And that's not the only thing that has changed. Back then, nobody even knew what workforce development was or skills training. It's now an issue that's on the political radar screen. We're going to talk a little bit about that during our time here. We are winning on these issues. We are winning on these issues here in Washington and in states around the country, states where you are serving as some of the leadership to advance some of those policies. This organization is growing beyond the fact that we have more of you here than we've ever had for a skills summit in Washington, D.C. We have a skills span network of over 20 states. We have a Business Leaders United project that we're developing with other organizations that now is going to have 15 state affiliates. We are moving this issue forward in a bunch of different ways, thanks to the leadership of the people in this room today. So the organization is growing. The issues are on the radar screen. We've had some wins, but we want bigger wins. And that's what we're going to start having conversations with policymakers here in Washington this week. One thing is fundamentally the same. The policies that we develop, the policies that we advocate on, are based on what you know about what's going on in your communities today. And so during this 20th anniversary year, the theme is going to be gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you've done in your communities. Thank you for your willingness to take time away from your programs and your businesses and your organizations to talk to policymakers about that work. Thank you about your willingness to work with a bunch of other stakeholders to figure out how it is that we can come up with a common agenda to move that work together. This organization would not exist without the time and energy and effort that you've put into it. It would not exist without the expertise that you bring to these conversations. And so Our 20 years is yours 20 years, and we want to thank you for that. And we're going to talk more about that over the course of the next couple days. Speaking of gratitude, I also want to thank a number of folks who have made this particular event possible. Over the past 20 years, we've had a number of wonderful funders and donors that invest in our work for 365 days of the year. But for these 3 days, there are some particular sponsors that I want to give recognition to who are helping to underwrite the costs of this event. And so I want to acknowledge our sponsors, our 3 diamond sponsors, JP Morgan Chase, Walmart, and Strata Education Network. Let's give them a hand. And you're going to be hearing more about them over the course. They're going to have over the course of today and tomorrow to talk a little bit more about the work that they're doing. And I also want to acknowledge our silver sponsor, the Alliance for American Manufacturing, a really important organization here in D.C., not to mention the fact that their CEO happens to be the chair of our boards. Thank you, Scott Paul. You can find out more about the sponsors and the work that they're doing in the Crowd Compass app. So has everybody downloaded the app? If you haven't, you're going to find a hard time getting around for the next 2 days, so you really should do that. You should have gotten instructions when you registered. If you're having trouble with it, seek out a member of the staff or go out to the front desk. Besides the agenda, you're going to be able to use it to get a bunch of resources that we're going to make available for each of the different panels and discussions, detailed information about all of the sessions, networking opportunities for your peers here at the event over the next several days. So even if you've got to click on the More indicator at the bottom of the screen to find out other ways that you can be using that app besides just figuring out what the next panel is that you're going to be going to. We're even going to be using it for some live polling during this session, so make sure that you've got it downloaded now so you can participate in that. It also allows us to make some changes to the agenda. So there are 2 things that are not on your printed agenda that I want to call your attention to. One is that in just a little while, we're going to be joined by Congressman Stephen Horsford, representative of the 4th District of Nevada, who's been a long-time National Skills Coalition member and board member, and now is ably carrying our messages forward through a number of different things in federal policy, through his membership both on the House Ways and Means Committee and the Congressional Black Caucus, and I'll be talking a little bit about Stephen. He's going to be coming around 2:30 this afternoon. And I also want to call your attention to that tomorrow at noon, we're going to have 2 officials from the Trump administration are going to be coming in to meet with you. Assistant Secretary of Employment and Training John Palish from the Department of Labor, and Deputy Assistant Secretary Casey Stacks of the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education at the U.S. Department of Education. That session is going to start right at noon. You're going to get some more information about that to make sure that you're here and ready to hear what they've got to say before lunch tomorrow. You'll get more information on that. Communications. So, we're all here in this room today, but how do we make sure that people outside of this room know what's going on, know what we're discussing, hear your thoughts about what's happening? First of all, let's make sure that you've got that summit hashtag, hashtag Skills Summit 2020, for those of you who are tweeting. Let's see if we can use that as much as possible. You'll get reminded about that over the course of the next 2 days. Also, tomorrow, on the list of firsts for Skills Summit, we're going to have a podcast. You're going to be part of a live studio audience for the Voices for Skills new podcast, Skilled America. It will be a live taping, so stay tuned for more information about that as well. All right, so let's get down to business. Before we do, I want to acknowledge I'm about to ask a number of our staff to come up who are going to walk us through the federal policy plenary to start to kind of get the juices flowing, to get us prepared for the conversations that you're going to be having up on the Hill in a couple days. But can I first get a general acknowledgement of all of the amazing National Skills Coalition staff who have done so much work over the past several months to make this event possible. They all deserve recognition. I do want to give particular recognition to Haley Kaplan, our events manager. This is her first Skills Summit ever. She did pretty good for her first time out, don't you think? Thank you, Haley.